When I was a young man in Toronto in my 20s, it was a snowy night and I was driving on the main highway 401, and I saw a young boy sort of half swaggering on his feet, and I said, somebody's going to run over this young man. I pulled up on the side of the road and I got out and I talked to him. He said, would you give me a ride, sir? I said, yes, I will. Where do you live? I could smell the liquor on him, and he was still talking clearly, but I could tell he was beginning to fade. I said, give me your name. He said, my name is Lorne Lusthouse. I said, Lorne, you're in no shape to talk right now, but I want to talk to you. I'm heading out of town for some meetings. I'll call you when I get back. Let's get together. He said, please do that. Please do that. I need help. I dropped him off in his home, walked him to the door, got into my car, went for my week of meetings, and came back and tried to contact him. He'd burned himself to death in his home. And I was given this poetry that he wrote before he died. Lost in a world of darkness, without a guiding light, seeking a friend to help my struggling, failing plight. So all of you good people just go on passing by, leaving me with nothing but this lonely will to die. For somewhere in this lonely world of sorrow and of woe, there's a place for me to hide, but where I do not know. For no matter where I go, I never will escape the devil's reaching, clutching hand or the drink of fermented grape. So I pray that out of my grief and anguish, perhaps some wandering boy will see and build his own life in this world, strong and good and free. He had to have a brilliant mind to write that stuff. But he went into a habit that broke him. To you young men and women, I say, where are you going to find your meaning? Are you going to find your meaning in the coherence of God's will, the sacredness of your life? Or are you going to find it in the incoherence of the world that retains a selective sovereignty over the choices that it makes, moment by moment by moment? And so I see secularization with no shame, pluralization with no reason, privatization with no meaning. And I just want to close with this. Is this really new? No. You see, in Genesis chapter 4, Cain murdered his brother and had no remorse. And God said to him before that, he said, why don't you do what's right? If you do what's right, you'll be accepted. If you don't do what's right, sin is crouching at the door, desires to have you. You must have dominion over it. Your choice is sin or that which is right in the eyes of God. Early in the Genesis, it happens, and he draws blood. Genesis chapter 3, the couple says, has God really spoken? Is there an absolute? Is there an absolute? So there's no shame in the young boy. The question of reason in the parents. And finally, as Abraham and Lot come in Genesis chapter 12, and Abraham moves towards the direction of becoming a man of the tent and the altar, transitory nihilism, transitoriness of life and sacredness of life. And Lot goes into the side of Sodom and lives a life of pleasure and paid the price, at least his family paid the price in all that he did. Our choice really is between the city of God and the city of man. And which city are you going to live by? I turned 69 last week. It's no fun. I've never worked as hard as I am in these days, my family will tell you. I'm on the road over 200 days a year, and with a broken back, it gets tough. But I am totally committed to making a difference in this world, and I will keep going as long as God gives me breath in my body. Thank you. And I don't go anywhere in the world but that somebody says to me, those books, those podcasts, your teammates, that Just Thinking article, that message, that quote saved my life. When my wife was in Papua, 100-year-old man said to her, I listen to those YouTube talks every day. 100-year-old man. We're going to do what God's called us to do. You do the same and be in this world of secularized consciousness and a pluralized way of thinking and a privatized. Show what a life is like when it understands shame, what a life is like when it understands reason, what a life is like when it understands meaning. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, our youth in the world are hungering for that. And more we see people writing from many, many parts of the globe, China, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Jordan, Israel, name a country, and somebody will write and say, thank you for helping me. Thank you for writing this book. I can't go anywhere without getting involved in somebody's life who holds my hand and says, please help me. I really need to get life in order. And I'll stop with that, just to tell you, secularization has its strength, but if it evicts the sacred completely, it'll break society down with a shamelessness. Pluralization extrapolated into relativism will lack reason and build in a systemic contradiction which breaks down all conversation and meaning. Finally, privatization, where we are forced to keep our faith in our private world and only bring out into the public world what society allows us to bring. That's what America tells us. Keep your faith private. Why must you keep your faithlessness public and me keep my faith private? There's a place for intelligent dialogue, kind dialogue, loving dialogue. And I still believe the great days are going to come and lie ahead because of universities like yours that raise up young people to think God's thoughts after Him and do God's will in their lives. Things will turn around one day and you and I can look back and say, God did it because His truth is eternal and the scriptures cannot be broken. God bless you. Thank you for getting me here.